This podcast is brought to you by PodSpot Events.
Hello and welcome to the Bondi podcast. I'm your host, Chris Beattie. The guest in this episode is Rawson Kirkhope. Now, Rawson is the co-founder and one of the head trainers at the VRTUS gym on Hall Street in Bondi Beach. VRTUS opened in November 2021 and has actually been a roaring success ever since the guys opened the doors. So much so, they're actually opening a second premises up on Bondi Road due to client demand. Now, I first met Rawson very shortly after they opened the first gym. I went in, did the 7-day trial week, and Rawson and the other trainers there could not have been more helpful, motivating, just really good people running really good group training sessions. I still train at VRTUS maybe once a week. I go in on Saturday and do my conditioning sessions there in the group format, which I really love. So Rawson has an interesting story. He grew up in Tasmania, joined the Navy at the age of 18 before moving to Sydney to become a PT. As I mentioned, now he is opened and he's a co-owner of one of the most popular gyms in Bondi Beach. But like the rest of us, it's not actually all been smooth sailing for Rawson, and we get into that as part of the discussion in the podcast. I'd just like to take this opportunity to really thank Rawson for coming in and sharing his incredible story. If you like what you hear about the community that they have built at VRTUS in Bondi, I'd really encourage you guys to give them a follow on Instagram, go along to the gym, have a chat with the guys. They're a really good group of people doing really good things in Bondi Beach. So I hope you really enjoy the episode. And yeah, as always, remember to give us a follow on Instagram at the Bondi Podcast, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you'll find all our episodes on Spotify. Cheers. Rawson, welcome to the podcast, mate.
Thanks for having me, mate.
Look, firstly, thanks for coming in tonight and giving up some of your time to come in and sort of share your story, buddy. Really appreciate it.
No dramas at all. But as soon as you asked me, I thought, yeah, great opportunity to share my story, get VRTUS out there a little bit as well, and obviously you're a mate of mine, so yeah, good to have a chat.
Perfect, mate. Well, really appreciate it. Ready to get into it?
Ready to get into it.
All right, mate. First question. You've been here a long time, mate. What's your favourite thing about Bondi?
That's a very good question. I have been here coming up on 18 years, so moved here quite young. I'd say, you can go down the path of, it's an idyllic place to live, the beaches, etc. But for me, I guess, and I see that a lot in the gym, is community. So a lot of people choose to live here. Yeah. Obviously, there's people that have grown up here, but the majority of people that I see in the gym, my group of mates, we're all interstate or international. Your friends become your family, and I think everyone tends to have each other's back here a lot.
100%.
That community vibe, everyone's looking out for each other, and yeah, like I said, your friends become your family away from home.
Yeah, no, mate, I can completely relate to that as well. I think it gets a bad rap from the outside, mate.
Exactly, yeah.
I just from my own experience was I when I first moved to Australia, I was living down in Melbourne, and there's the whole Melbourne-Sydney thing initially. Yes. And when I was living down in Melbourne, I was like, I'll never be one of those eastern suburbs wankers. Like you'll never,
pretentiousness,
you'll never catch me living in Bondi Beach. And then, ended up moving to Sydney. Was in Surrey Hills initially.
Yep. And
I was like, oh well, fuck, I might try living out in Bondi. And as soon as you're in the bubble, mate, you're like,
is it a jealousy thing? Do you think? Is it the way of living? Obviously, the cost of living is expensive. Do you have to pay a high the cost to live here, but is it the outside looking in? They're all these eastern suburbs wankers, I guess, but it's not like that at all. Everyone has each other's backs. It's the community is something that I haven't seen. And I've been in the Navy. I've been around the world a lot, and Bondi, it feels safe. It feels like home.
Yeah, completely agree, mate. Completely agree. Look, firstly, let me just say congrats on the success of the gym. When did you guys open again?
We opened November 2021, so coming up on 2 years now.
Coming up on 2 years. And mate, I can't leave the house without seeing someone in a VRTUS hoodie, VRTUS socks, man. So whoever's in charge of the merch, they've done a fucking unbelievable job.
All of us, myself and Hamish, look after the merch, so we'll take that. The business itself, it's a lot of people see it as an overnight success, I guess. We are doing quite well. We're about to open our second establishment. It's come from years of hard work and just having the right team together. Obviously, we opened in a location that's bang in the middle of Bondi on Hall Street. And we timed it, I guess, perfectly in terms, it was a big punt after lockdown.
Yeah.
After that second lockdown, coming out of COVID, people were craving that community like I spoke of before. And it's just, we've just hit the ground running, and the thing we're most proud of is that community.
Yeah.
People are proud to wear the merch.
100%.
People are, proud to spend time together, which is the thing we're most proud of.
Yeah. Oh, mate, I couldn't agree more. What are the member numbers at these days?
So at the moment, because we have about 60 to 70 on pause in Europe at the moment, I reckon most gyms in the eastern suburbs, everyone going over to Europe, we're pushing around that 400 mark.
Jesus.
Okay, and for a gym where we're 230 square meters, 400 people pumping through there, it gets a bit chaotic, and that was obviously the need to grow. But we were at around that 250, 300 mark within 6 months of opening. So well beyond what we thought we'd get to.
So yeah, that was going to be my next question. Has that, so in and around the 400 mark, has that surpassed expectations when you guys opened?
Definitely. Yeah, we had a growth model. Obviously, we planned. We had a strategic plan of we wanted 150 by 6 months. We were at 300. We doubled what we had. Hamish, myself, Leash, Cow, we all are established personal trainers. We brought our clients with us, but there was nowhere near what we imagined we'd get to.
Wow.
Within a year, we were at capacity in terms of our peak hour sessions.
And there was a wait list for a while as well.
Yeah, there's a wait list. So we had to stop. We've opened that up now because of the new gym opening in 6 weeks, which we'll get to in a bit. So our morning peak hour sessions are waitlisted every day, Monday through Saturday. And then so we've had to put on extra sessions. We run 13 sessions a day.
So that was going to be my next question as well. So with that initial model in mind of 150 people after 6 months, but you're actually at 300. How did you guys have to adapt the class times and the programming and things like that?
Everything was done on the run. So we initially had 6 to 8 sessions a day. That quickly turned to 13. Wow. Hamo and I were doing 10 sessions or 10 to 15 sessions a week. Now we're up around 25. Jeez. So that workload increased. We hit the ground running, but loved every minute of it. We're just hitting it as we go, where new challenges arise, and we've been able to adapt because of the team that we've got.
Rolling with the punches, mate.
Yeah,
very good. Look, we'll touch on the gym a little bit later on. We're here to sort of tell your story.
Yep.
This evening, mate. I know a little bit about your story.
Yep.
I know that you grew up in Tassie, spent a bit of time serving in the Navy, and now you're obviously the corner of VRTUS.
Yes.
Now that in itself is quite an interesting story.
Yeah.
But I take a quick look at your social media, mate, and I get the sense that there's been highs and lows along the way. Like the rest of us, you've had your struggles, and obviously social media doesn't necessarily tell the full story. So as I said, that's sort of why we're here this evening, to give you that platform to tell your story and essentially fill in the blanks, mate.
Sure. And I've found that, over the years, on social media, I've tried to share a little bit more, the more comfortable I get. Obviously, like you said, it doesn't tell the full picture.
Yeah.
But growing up in Tassie, I grew up a little bit out of a town called Launceston, up the northern part of Tasmania, beautiful, idyllic part of the world. I grew up in a sandstone quarry, not in the quarry, but my dad operated a sandstone quarry. Dad was I come from, there's myself and my sister, Amelia, my mum and my dad, so small family. But Dad, I'll start from the very start. Dad had a car accident when I was 6 months old. Shit. He was an abalone diver, and he was on King Island. So car accident, he was I won't go into the detail with that, but in a coma for a couple of months. And the result of that developed a lot of mental health issues. So I don't remember life pre this.
And was your sister around at the time?
3 years older than me, Amelia. Okay. And Dad developed schizophrenia and a lot of other issues that came with that. He was paralysed down one side of his body. A very strong man who had served in the army. Was a fisherman, very, very popular man. Very, you would say, a tough old school type of guy.
Yeah.
I think obviously dealing with his injuries, dealing with all this stuff going on in his head, he did not deal with it well. And over the years, as I grew up, my lifestyle my childhood was very chaotic. He used to be very physically abusive, mentally abusive. My mum and myself and my sister would cop the brunt of it.
So what's your earliest memory of that, I suppose?
To be fair, I have blanked out a lot of my childhood, as you do with trauma, and I've done a fair bit of work trying to unravel this and put the pieces together. I remember just living in a constant state of fear growing up. I'll go into more in depth with this in a minute, but from about the age of 4 to the age of 13, living in a constant state of fear, because Dad was, on his day, was a brilliant man. On his off day was the scariest man on the planet, and it could happen in the click of a finger.
So what sort of things would trigger that?
Anything from a bad day at work, obviously running his own business, a sandstone quarry, being disabled, anything. His food wasn't up to his liking. Wow. And that would turn physical really quickly. So Mum, I remember Mum getting thrown through walls. Shit. I remember the belt coming out on numerous occasions, but then,
for you and your sister?
For me and my sister. My sister copped a lot of mental abuse. Myself was more physical. A lot of my mum, I remember driving us to school with black eyes consistently.
Your mum had black eyes, or you and your sister?
Mum copped a lot. So Mum, I know we tried to leave. We grew up, so this was about 40 minutes out of Launceston. Mm-hmm. Launceston being the major town in northern Tasmania. We tried to stay with friends and family, but you know what it's like in that environment. Mum would have found it very difficult to leave because of us. Yeah. She mustered up the courage to leave when I was 12. We moved into town, into Launceston. And then something happened that definitely changed the trajectory of my life. Mum found a new partner. Okay. I was in the shower at the time. I was 13 years old, just about to go into year 9. Dad found out about this, charged in the door with a handgun. Mum, I was in the shower at the time, came into the bathroom, pushed the door shut behind her. The door got kicked in, and Dad unloaded a couple of rounds into Mum in front of me, which was something I've lived with for going on. I'm 36 now. That's whatever time that is.
So you were 13 at the time.
13, just about to go into year 9. Still remember this like it was yesterday. Yeah. Mum obviously laying on the floor. Dad went on the run. So he was a wanted man for a week. Went and hid in the bush. He was a bushman. He grew up in the bush. Mum.
Well, so where did he catch your mum?
He in the shoulder and just below the lung. So she still has 2 bullets in her to this day. So she survived.
Bullets or bullet wounds?
Bullets. So bullets still inside.
So let's just.
I know I'm speaking obviously
okay,
pretty
mate.
quickly
yeah,
here.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Like let's just pause a bit on that for a second.
Sure.
So you're in the shower.
Yep.
Your mum's come running into the room. Dad's burst through the door and shot your mum twice.
Yes.
What's your initial reaction? Can you remember that?
I do. I was calm. I remember, obviously, I think you become, if something happens a lot, obviously you become immune to it, and the violence was something that I was used to. Obviously not to this extent. Yeah. I'd seen my dad with firearms. We grew up on a couple of thousand acres. We always had firearms. Obviously not used in that setting. I remember everything stopped, everything being calm, and then running to the phone to call the police, an ambulance.
And what's going on with your mum at the time?
Mum's in a pool of blood on the floor.
Conscious, unconscious?
Unconscious. I thought that was it. I remember calling the police and going and sitting on my bed. I don't remember anything for about 3 months after that.
And where was your sister at the time?
Not sure. There's from police reports and from court documents, Dad turned around and fired a bullet back at the house, but missed my sister by a couple of meters. And then, like I said, blacked out. I don't remember the next couple of months.
So you don't remember the next 3 months?
I remember I was on the eve of going into year 9, so it would have been in Tassie. We only have 3 terms of school, so we started a little bit later, late January, early February, I think. So definitely didn't go to school for 3 or 4 months. But very challenging time in life. I went and stayed with my granddad and then my godparents at the time. So mum was in hospital, dad was obviously on the run, and then front page of the paper, wanted, big photo of my dad for 3 or 4 days straight, and eventually handed himself in, and then we went through the whole court process.
And what was the outcome of that?
So court itself was a challenging ordeal. We obviously weren't allowed in the same court. We were video link and then testifying against my dad. And I held my dad in high esteem growing up, even through everything we went through. I played football at a high level, cricket at a high level, everything I did. I think I sought out his validation because I didn't get it.
Yeah.
And that push to do things to make him proud of me, so I didn't get physically hurt. So standing up and testifying against him was ridiculously hard. But I just had to recall what happened. He got sentenced to seven years, which, looking back now, it's ridiculously. That's attempted murder. He was obviously mental health came into it, but I think he got out after 4 years. And like I said, a lot of this is I've blanked. A lot of it I've tried to forget.
Yeah.
So he went to jail, and that's why I said before, from the age of 13, I lived in fear. From 13 onwards, 13 to 17, when he got out, I was the happiest I've ever been, because I had that sense of freedom back.
So this would have been, was this in the 90s?
2001.
Sorry, 2001. Like, obviously we're 22 years on now, and if something like that happened in this day and age, there'd be, just given the more awareness around mental health and trauma and things like that, there would be support systems in place for kids that have gone through that sort of thing. Was there anything like that for you and your sister in Tasmania?
Court ordered to go see a psych. I think I went twice and they signed off that I was fine. Which I've done a lot of work now.
Doesn't sound like this sort of thing that you'd figure out in 2 sessions.
It's a bit of a joke, to be honest. Like, that's 20 years ago, obviously, and we've come a long way since then. And in saying that as well, the mental health side of my father, he should have had a lot of help post his car accident. Like, this would have saved a lot of this. I had a disdain for police for a long time as well, because of my mum, rocking up to drop off at school with black eyes, and police not checking and things like that. So teachers, I had a lot of pent up negative energy towards authority.
I'll bet.
For not preventing this, and the mental health side of things as well.
So how did that manifest itself in your teenage years?
I got a bit reckless. Obviously not having a father figure. Going from having a total disciplinarian who would punish us at any stage, to then not having a father figure. My grandfather is a brilliant man on my mum's side. He was a mentor to me. Obviously, the respect I have for my mum, the strongest woman on the planet, held me in pretty good stead. My school, I was a straight A student up until 13. I graduated high school, but I didn't do my exams.
Wow.
My schoolwork fell to the side. I was playing competitive state level football. I just wanted to play with my mates. So my discipline fell off. And that's when Dad got out of jail when I was 17. And I think I wanted to get away from him, the scenario, and I needed discipline. So that's when I joined the military. I joined the Navy.
So before we get into that, Rawson, just a question. So that 4-year period that your dad spent in jail. Did you see him?
No chance. He wrote to me. I've still got the letters unopened, and I don't think I ever will.
Are those letters back in Tassie? Or?
Back in Tassie, yeah.
Wow.
Mum's kept hold of a lot of stuff from my childhood, which is great. She keeps everything.
Did your mum or sister go and see him?
Mum did, which is crazy. This is the type of woman she is. She forgave Dad. She lobbied Dad to get out of jail early. So she spoke to the parole board. She got Dad out on weekend release. She is just an astonishing woman. Looking back now, it's incredible that she could forgive someone for 20 years of abuse, and then something like that. And she did that for us. She wanted him, or especially me, she wanted him to have a relationship with me and vice versa. And it was a year. So it's from 17 to 18. Sorry, I skipped through that, where I did give Dad a second chance. And we bought an old car, an old EH Holden, 1964 Holden. I don't know if you're aware of those, a classic Australian car.
Yeah.
We did that up together. And it kind of brought us a bit of a bond, but I was always a bit reserved and a bit hesitant. Always still that sense of fear came back.
Did you see any of that aggressive behaviour over that 1 year period?
Which was, if I had seen that, once, I would have left. I was 17 at the time. I'd always in the back of my head growing up that when I was old enough, I was going to teach him a lesson. And when I got to that age, when I could, I didn't feel the need to. I thought, this guy's just got out of jail. We'll give him a second chance. And I did. And we had a pretty special 6 months. And he showed remorse. Like he showed a lot of remorse. My sister didn't see him. She refused to, and that's totally fine. That's more than okay. Mm-hmm. But I thought I'd give him a second chance, and then I joined the Navy at 18.
So why the Navy?
My sister joined.
Ah, okay.
So 2 years earlier, she joined.
Okay.
She went down for a careers night. Never the intention of joining, and it struck a chord with her. She joined, and I'd got to a stage where I'd been offered an apprenticeship, a building apprenticeship, stay in Tasmania for 4 years, or join the Navy like my sister did and see the world and take a chance. So I went down that path.
That's great, mate. So age of 18, leaving Tasmania, where did you go to join the Navy? Where did you do your basic training?
So signed up in Launceston. 2 weeks later, got the call saying, "You're ready." Yeah. Took a flight to Melbourne. It was on a bus, realising what the hell have I done here? I had long black hair. I was a pretty boy, pretty boy. And then they took great joy in shaving my hair and lining me up. And basic training's about kind of not breaking your character, but bringing everyone to a level where you're all the same and building you back up. The 2 a.m. Wake up and go marching and teaching a lot of basic life skills, which I loved it. I thrived on it, especially that basic training. Yeah,
so I want to dig into the basic training because I've got a few mates that joined the Marines back in the UK, and that was like one of the, when we sort of talk about their experience, we always talk about the basic training.
It was fun. It was challenging. I remember you don't get leave for the first 5 weeks, so it's obviously you're learning about the military. You're learning how to march. You're learning when to wake up, when you're getting told everything. Coming from someone who, at that stage of my life was pretty undisciplined. Yeah. It was a shock to the system, but I loved the PT side of it. So the physical training, the runs, the group training, the marching. I've always played footy, played cricket, been part of teams. And then, there's so many little things like you don't get leave if there's one part of your bed with a crinkle in it. So we'd be ironing our beds and, you embrace that team environment, which I loved it.
And did you ever get done for a crinkle in the bedsheet?
I did. I had leave taken off me one weekend, and it's if one person in your room, messes up, your whole room messes up. So the closest town was Frankston, which is a suburb of Melbourne, a bit of a rough suburb. But everyone would go there and go to the pub and have a few beers, and it was good fun. But you do that for 11 weeks, and then you go down your specific path of what rate or what career you choose in the Navy. And I was marine engineering. So my basic training went for another year and a half at the base in just outside of Melbourne. Mm-hmm. And then I got posted to Sydney and been here ever since. So end of 2006, I've been here since. Okay. And I got posted to a ship called HMAS Success, which was an oil replenishment ship. Okay.
And a bit of travel with that? Like you didn't spend all your time in
No. So I posted to the ship. My first overseas port was, we went straight to Pearl Harbor, which was pretty cool. Okay. And we had a bit of a breakdown over there. So we spent about 3 weeks in Pearl Harbor.
When you say breakdown, what do you mean?
Something wrong with the ship. So, you got to order parts, etc. So we're laid up in this, tropical paradise. I'm thinking, how good's this? Then we went across, and it's crazy because obviously I just watched Oppenheimer, the movie. and all about the bomb. And my second port was Hiroshima.
Okay.
So where that bomb was dropped.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
very eerie. And going from a place like Pearl Harbor to Hiroshima, my first two ports, it was an eye opener. And coming from little old Tassie to these places, it was it was great. It opened my eyes, and I grew up pretty quick. Was still finding myself, I guess, but I had a lot of good mentors. Chiefs and leading seamen, guys that were above me that taught me the ways of the military, taught me some things I probably shouldn't have known. But
anything you can share?
Yeah, probably not on the podcast, but it was good fun, and definitely I had some great trips. My ship, the primary role of my ship was to refuel other ships at sea. And my job was the tanky, so I was in charge of the fuel that would recirc. I'd recirc the fuel, I'd test the fuel. We'd pump fuel. We'd be refueling aircraft carriers at sea in the middle of the ocean, which was, it was awesome.
Any sort of crazy stories while you were at sea?
Didn't see any wartime action. I remember one story that definitely sticks out. I saw a couple of crazy things, but once we were sailing in the South China Sea.
Okay.
It's huge, massive sea. There's alarms go off all day, but they're usually safeguard is the word they say before an alarm. Safeguard, which means this is real. So, man overboard, alarm went off.
Okay.
We thought, no, this can't be real. Ran up from the engine room. A guy's just floating on an esky. One of my best mates, Kyle, jumped in our outboard, got lowered down, cruised out to him, picked him up out of the water. He'd been there for a week. He'd watched his brother, his dad, and his best mate die, get eaten by sharks.
So how did they end up
local
there?
fishermen. Wow. So I remember bringing him on board, and everyone on board, chipping in $20, $30, and he went back and bought land, and it's that feel good story, but it started from just a needle in a haystack. We were just lucky, a ship cruising past, and we nicknamed him Lucky.
Wow.
But stories like that. So wasn't in any conflict.
No.
But some stories and got to see the world. I lived in Singapore for a year, which was an experience.
Wow. Our
ship was as an oil replenishment ship, we were full of fuel. A new maritime law came in where they had to double hull in case you ran aground. You didn't leak oil or fuel everywhere. So the engineering team went over to Singapore for a year, oversaw that. That's pretty cool. We got to work 4 days on, 4 days off, and travel on our official passport. So it's like living like a rock star. You rock up to the airport, walk through the line. We're going to Thailand for the weekend. We're going to Bali for the weekend. 4 days on, 4 days off.
So how old are you this year that you're in Singapore?
I would have been 24.
And with a good crowd of mates?
My best mates.
Oh, wow.
My best mates. Living in Singapore, having some fun.
So 4 days on, 4 days off. It's all about what you do in the 4 days off?
Just traveling.
Yeah.
Or we'd just chill, and we put up in these beautiful houses because it's an American Navy base, and they look after you. Playing pool, laying by the pool.
Perfect, mate.
Just having some fun.
Perfect. So you joined the Navy at 18. When did you start? When did you leave?
So left the Navy 2013. So just coming up on 8.5 years, so nearly 10.
And what was the decision?
The reason for it, I was losing touch with a lot of my mates. You're away for 8-9 months a year. You come back, you try and keep up with current affairs. You try and keep up with your mates. There's new mates in your mateship group.
Yeah.
You don't even know. I'm obviously coming from a sporting background. You can't play footy. You can't have a normal life. It's a young person's job, I guess. I can't have relationships. So you've got to give a year's notice. So after your initial 6, you've got to do 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
Every year I just put a year's notice in, and then at the end, renege on that or go. And then when it got to 8, I thought, my time's up now. Time to pursue other things. And this is where I'll get to with VRTUS. This was always in the back of my head with Hamo and I that we were going to do something like this. And then that was the next step.
That was the next step. So left the Navy and came back to Sydney?
Came back to Sydney.
What did that look like in the early days?
That was tough. So I don't know if you've heard about professional sportsmen when they finish and they've got no direction.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to get out and, do these wonderful things. And, in the Navy, you get told when to eat, what to eat, what time to be here, where you are for the next 6 months. I didn't work I lived on, obviously I had a fair bit of money saved up from being at sea. You don't spend money when you're at sea. So I lived off that for about 6 months and then realised my fitness was lacking. my direction was lacking. I was going out in
Yeah.
King's Cross every Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Wow.
You know, and it was good fun for a while, and then I needed a job. So I started working just as a fitter, as a diesel fitter on work sites around Sydney. This wasn't for me. I hated it. And at the same time, my best mate Hamish, who we've touched on, another co-founder at VRTUS, had just moved over from Perth. I'd been for years and years and years into him. Come over to Sydney. This is where it's at. And he made the move in 2014. And as soon as the day he got here, we're doing our PT certs. We're doing what we talked about when we were younger.
Yeah.
We're going to do this together. And every day was talking about, you know, we're opening this gym. We're going to get this gym. So we did our courses at the Australian Institute of Fitness together.
Okay. Yeah.
Then we both started working. A mate of mine ran a boot camp business in Paddington.
Okay.
At the old White City Tennis Centre.
Okay.
I don't know if you know it. It's been knocked down now. But we worked there just helping him out. I took a running group. I'm not a runner, don't love running, but I was in charge of the running group. Hamish took the weight side of things. If you've seen Hamo, you'd understand why. We started working there for a while. Then Hamish moved on to F45.
Okay.
And I started my own business, which was called Major Fitness.
I believe there's a bit of a story.
There's a bit of a story there with Major. My dad's nickname was Major. He spent a couple of years in the army. And looking back now, I regret naming my business Major Fitness. I thought I was, like I said before, I was trying to prove something, trying to always get that validation from him. And I don't
even
understand.
At that age though, mate? Even
at that age. I think it's only post 30 when I've started to do the work, where I've realised, you know, I don't need that validation from anyone, let alone from him.
So were you still in contact with him at this stage?
My dad passed away. We skipped over this. He passed away when I was 18. So
when you joined the Navy? When
I joined the Navy, 6 months in, he passed away. He had a heart attack, fatal heart attack, and passed away.
How did that hit?
That hit hard. It helped that I'd had the chance to kind of at least see him and get that little bit of remorse.
Yeah.
I was okay up until the funeral. I wouldn't have got through it without Hamish and a couple of my other really close mates. But it set me back a little bit, you know, chasing validation, drinking, you know, girls, that kind of thing, you know, just partying too much. And it wasn't until I got back to sea with the Navy, back at sea, and got that discipline in my life that, you know, things started to get a bit better.
So 10 years on after he'd passed,
I started
still seeking that validation.
Still seeking that validation.
Wow.
Which is strange, and I don't understand. Like at the time, I didn't understand how tough that would have been on my mum, seeing his nickname emblazoned all over my Instagram and, you know, my shirts, and, you know, I'd go home to Tassie real proud wearing a Major Fitness hoodie, and, you know, that's.
Did you guys ever talk about it?
No, Mum and I have never really touched on it. A couple of times, and that's out of respect for her, I guess. I don't want her to relive it. No, I know she relives it every day, so.
And your sister didn't say, Rawson, pull your head in? Or?
No. So, no, it was something that I look back now with a bit of regret. I'm proud of Major Fitness. I'm proud of the business I built.
Yeah.
I had about a good 60, 80 members on my books, just working by myself. Group training, personal training.
Outdoor, indoor?
Both. Outdoor, indoor. Okay. I leased a space out of a good mate of mine, Brando, Body by Brando.
Oh, yeah.
So he's a good mate. And
is he at the Junction?
He is at the Junction now.
Yeah,
this was down in Paddington. I owe a lot to him. He gave me, him and another mate, Blake Worrell Thompson, they both gave me starts in the industry. From there, COVID hit. So I was forced into working out of my garage.
Yeah. And
Hamish was working in the garage as well. So we were doing shifts. I'd do 6 to 7. He'd do 7 to 8, just as during lockdown.
Yeah.
He had his business
so where was
at
the
the
garage,
same time. Garage on Warners Avenue.
Right,
so just down from Depot Cafe, who are good mates of ours. So we just had PT clients in there, and, you know, we're struggling. We're working. You're on at this time. I'm on at this time.
Yeah.
You know, I'd run upstairs, grab a feed, and then come down and take over from him.
All during lockdown.
During lockdown.
Everything's so you're living sort of client to client.
Client to client. So obviously group training had been a big part of my Major Fitness business up until then. Obviously we weren't allowed to take groups.
Yeah.
We went into PT, and and this is where the story from VRTUS actually starts in that garage.
Yeah.
So Hamo and I had already had the idea, always had the idea to open a gym together.
Yeah.
As well as, so it was us two, we couldn't do it by ourselves. We needed a couple of other pieces.
Mm-hmm.
So a good mate of mine from the Navy, Luke Woodcroft,
Mm-hmm.
he reached out to me just prior to lockdown happening. He started coming down, doing a few group sessions, and he's thinking about transitioning from life after the Navy.
Yeah.
And he's a petty officer clearance diver, so like your Marine,
Mm-hmm.
and done a lot of project management work. And he was kind of the glue that we needed. So Hamo and I can coach.
Yeah.
Business, don't know much about business. So him, and then we needed our finances. So a good mate of mine and a client of mine and a business mentor of mine, Paul Wilson,
Mm-hmm.
who I was training at the time, he actually was always saying, like, why don't you guys have a gym?
Yeah.
Mate, it's Bondi. You know, trying to get this financially started is tough. So we chipped in what we could afford. Paul helped out, and the four of us became business partners in what is now VRTUS. So 25% each,
Yeah.
4-way split, and we started shopping around for spaces.
And what was the initial concept?
So the initial concept was always going to be group training.
Yeah.
Hamo and I love it with the personal training aspect as well.
Yeah.
So we're going to go into a franchise. So I won't name the franchise, but we nearly signed. We had the paperwork in front of us
Wow.
to go into franchise, and we looked at it and thought we can do this ourselves. And I'm so glad we did.
And what was the factors there? So you looked at a piece of paper, you thought we could do it ourselves. What was the giveaway? What was the tale?
The main thing, obviously having someone with such a great business mind as Paul, looking over contracts and seeing that things didn't marry up, we'd be doing all the work, and someone else taking, a portion of that money,
Mm-hmm.
which I understand that's the franchise model.
Franchise model.
But we have a lot of confidence in ourselves as coaches. Paul has a lot of confidence in himself as a businessman. If you know Paul, he's a very confident man and very very successful man as well.
Yeah.
And Luke he's the alpha Navy clearance diver as well.
Yeah.
Like we can do this. We can do this ourselves. And we thought, all right, let's do this. We'll look for some places. We got knocked back from about 4 or 5 shops around Bondi.
Where about?
The building that just got knocked down on Curl Lewis. We thought we had it.
Okay.
Didn't have that.
Just opposite, beside Charcoal Charlie's.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which would, of course, there's a couple of gyms in that area, so I don't know how it would have gone
Yeah,
down.
well.
Another place in North Bondi, which Milk Run took over. They didn't want a gym there. Another couple of places up the junction, which it's all part of the journey.
Oh,
I was ready to pull the pin.
Why? Just
setback after
frustration?
setback, frustration.
Yeah.
And then this place on Hall Street had been vacant for a while, so we tried our luck. We succeeded. We got it, and it's 2 shop fronts.
Yeah.
So you know where we are. We're right next to Ravisi's on Hall Street. 2 shop fronts. So we took both. We didn't have a name, so we came up with VRTUS. And VRTUS, a lot of people ask the question, what is VRTUS?
So yeah, a lot of my friends who go to the gym will mistakenly call it VRTUS.
Yes,
and
yeah,
I have
they
to
do.
always correct them. No, I don't think it's VRTUS. It's VRTUS. It's VRTUS. What?
It's VRTUS.
What's the
VRTUS was the deity or goddess, if you will, in Roman times of military bravery, courage, and strength, which, it fits us to a T.
Yeah.
A couple of ex-military boys, bravery, courage, and strength. That's an ethos we stand by. And also being 4 guys, a female, deity, having that. So we dropped the I. There are a couple of businesses with the name VRTUS, none with VRTUS, and we all came to agreement, it still spells VRTUS.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
we went with that.
Yeah. Who came up with it? Whose idea was it? Who's taking credit?
I'm going to take credit for that.
They're not here to defend themselves,
it's a
mate.
team
Yeah.
effort. Everything we do is a team effort.
Yeah.
But and then the branding, we came up with it ourselves. Everything we came up with, we needed a female, so we reached out to a trainer who I'd known for a bit, Leash Brown, to come on board. And
Where was Leash at the time?
she was working because of COVID. She was working outdoors, trying to run her own group stuff.
Yeah.
She does a lot of pre and postnatal work. Brilliant coach, brilliant with
she's
with the
great.
mums. A good addition to our team. And we also brought on Callum, which is Hamish's younger brother.
He's the good-looking one.
If you've seen Callum, you know who I'm talking about. Yeah, he's 6'3", blonde and chiseled. He probably attribute 50% of our female clients just to coming to the cow.
And that's part of the marketing when Callum's in there working out by himself at like 9 p.m. at night with his shirt off.
The lights
that's
on.
part of the marketing, isn't it?
He loves it.
I've walked past that so many times and it's just made me feel bad about myself.
And the funny thing is with Cow, he's the most humble human you'll ever meet, and he's not doing that for clout. He's not doing that. He knows, of course he knows he looks great, but he's not one to, post his shirtless. He does. He posts shirtless pics on Instagram, but he's got his modelling career going as well. Yeah. But he's a brilliant coach, and he's earned equity in the business. And that's not just through nepotism. That's not just because he's Hamo's brother and I call him my younger brother as well. He's definitely earned that.
Got to earn it.
So with the structure moving forward, we opened in November, and I think we had a really good marketing ploy because it was November, because everyone was coming out of COVID. A lot of people didn't have much money to spend. We gave the rest of 2021 free. So that was to entice people. And so that was, a month and a half of free training. And we really just drove home our product, which our product's so simple. It's just strength and conditioning, basic strength and conditioning, progressive overload over a 12-week program. Yeah. Which meat and potatoes, your compound movements, some accessory movements, your aerobic conditioning, your anaerobic conditioning. I think it's a model that has been successful for 100 years. Yeah. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel.
No.
Hamish is a brilliant technical coach with weight training. I'm more on the conditioning side. We do our programming. We sit down and we work it out together. And
just the two of you or the full group? So will Leash and Callum get involved as well?
Just the two of us at the moment with our programming. It's something we want to open up to the rest of the staff.
Yeah.
So at the moment, Hamish looks after the strength component, and I look after the conditioning. So I'm the one that gets the angry clients, because I'm the ones that they're the ones crawling out of the gym after a hard Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday
you're the one
session.
That makes us go on the assault bike, mate.
Yeah, I'm the assault bike man. Yeah.
So I think the other thing I wanted to touch on, just with respect to the gym, was the sense of community that you've built here in Bondi. As I mentioned, you can't walk 5 steps out of your house without seeing someone in some VRTUS merch.
Yep.
But as you said, mate, people are generally proud to wear it, right? So
exactly, it's.
I look at your social media sometimes, mate, and I see the sort of community initiatives that you did. Obviously, last year at the City to Surf, you sort of opened the doors up. You there was beers. You were cooking food.
Yeah.
I see that you have some of the local businesses come in and do sessions as well, mate. Tell us a little bit more about the community aspects.
Community that's our biggest driver. Our biggest ethos is community. And like I touched on before, people don't have family here. Obviously people do, but the vast majority of us don't. We're from overseas, from Tassie, from New South, from Queensland, from WA. We've tried to make this as much a family, a place where people can just come together and have a laugh. We don't take ourselves too seriously. We take our training seriously, but we're always cracking jokes in the gym. We're trying to make it as fun an environment as we can. Yeah. We get together at the end of every 12-week block. We put, some money behind the bar at all the local businesses, and we work. We really pride ourselves on working with local businesses as well. Like you said, City to Surf. Any event we can do. We're actually going to do a VRTUS Cup next week, so you're invited to that, mate. Where we're going to raise funds for one of our members is from she spent a lot of time in Maui growing up, so to raise awareness and raise funds for what's going on over there with the bushfires and bring people together. And we'll throw the doors open and we'll throw some drinks on. We've already got the boys from Depot, Curly Lewis, vodka soda, and putting the drinks on, putting the food on, where we can bring people in and make a difference. Help people if anyone's struggling. We get them to come in, and it's on the house. The session's on the house. If you're struggling, we've got a platform. Hamo and I have both been through our own separate things. Luke as well. Same with Leash and Callum. So if we can help people, we've got a platform now and make it. People have stressful lives. There's a lot going on where for an hour a day they come in, they have a laugh with some mates. That's what we're most proud of. The sessions are hard. They're hard sessions, but they cater for everyone. We've got grandmothers. We've got a couple of, 60, 70-year-old women that train alongside elite athletes. We have AFL boys come in during their off season and train, and we literally cater for everyone. And we'll go out of our way to make sure that you're enjoying it. You know, you've got a smile on your face. You know, we're not the best coaches in the world. We're never going to say we're the most technically sound coaches in the world, but we know how to get the best out of you. And I think building those partnerships, like I'll touch on, we're about to open our second space soon, but I think getting people in the door initially was the easiest part. Because we're on such a thoroughfare on Hall Street, and word of mouth has been a big one. But our retention rate from program to program is up around 90%. So people stay. Because I think of that, you know, that community environment and that community.
Okay, mate, you touched on it. Second gym. So second gym's opening pretty soon on Bondi Road. What was the thinking that led to that decision, mate?
We'd about a year in, we realised, you know, we've hit our member capacity. We're not in this just for money, but also in terms of our business growth. You know, we'd reached our capacity a year in terms of building our business, our business model. Our classes were full. We started doing outdoor sessions to cater for that. We've got our 5:15, our 6, our 6:45 classes in the morning, have 10 on the wait list every day. We needed a bigger site. We'd looked for a few places. We nearly signed the lease on one in Paddington, but we thought we'd be a bit stretched in terms of just myself, Hamish, Cal, Leash. We've also got Abby on board now, new coach, brilliant coach. We'd be a bit stretched, so we started looking around the east. So Coogee, and then something came up on Bondi Road. So we were lucky enough to get a site on Bondi Road. So the old Bondi Collision Centre, which if you've lived in Bondi for long enough, you'd know it's a big loft-style warehouse halfway up Bondi Road. If you're Bondi, you know where Toddy's is. It's a couple of blocks up from there. And it's our dream. It's obviously where we're at on Hall Street at the moment. It's a brilliant brand new build, but we always wanted that warehouse, you know, kind of vibe. And we were lucky. The landlord is the old owner of the Collision Centre, and he wanted locals. He wanted a locally owned business. We were up against a few franchises, gyms. We were up against breweries. There was a lot of interest in the site, and we were lucky enough to grab it. And now we're going to turn this into VRTUS 2.0. We've actually partnered up, and I touched on partnerships and community before. Our good mates, Johnny, Guy and Clint at Depot, they're coming in on board and creating their second cafe. Which will be, you know, based around, it'll be a partnership. We're going to have a recovery centre. We're going to have an open gym where you can train, do your own programming. All right. We've got our group training. We're never going to shy away from group training. That's our bread and butter. But we also have, you know, your machines, your pin loaded, plate loaded, you know, your free weights. You can do your own programming. We've got upstairs 7 rooms, which we've got physio. We've already locked in physio, nutritionist. We also have potentially room for more health space. So it's a big hub. The 333 stops out the front, the bus stop.
Perfect.
It's very cool, very exciting.
Tell us a little bit more about the recovery centre, mate.
So the recovery, it's just an optional. We obviously group training, strength and conditioning that's our bread and butter. But the more you can give people, obviously the better your product's going to be. We've got ice baths, so 2 of those going in, and 2 saunas. And the reasoning, obviously behind that, obviously recovery. The way the world's going, we're becoming more aware of recovery and the benefits of recovery.
I'm a big advocate for ice baths, mate. I'm in the slow house once a week doing the fire and ice, the sauna and the ice bath, mate. It's beautiful. Growing
up in Tassie, I can tell you all about swimming in cold water. The benefits it's huge. So we're going down that path, and the saunas will be, because of community. We're not going to do just the individual or 2-man saunas. We're going to do 2 6 or 8-man saunas. Correct me, I'll have to follow that up. One will be a communal where you can have a chat. The other one will be more of a chill out sauna. So 2 saunas, 2 ice baths. And the way we're going to do it, so we'll just tier our membership. So with that open gym, you know, you've obviously got to be a member. We just don't want to just flood the gym. We still want people to have a really good experience. So if you're a member and you pay that base rate, you'll just have the group training option. a little bit more expensive, and you've got group and open gym and a little bit more expensive on top of that. And we're just talking here $5-10.
Yeah.
We'll have access to everything. And
members can chop and change
and
between.
they can chop and change between the two.
Hall Street.
So if you're a member, if you're a VRTUS member, you can train at Hall Street or Bondi Road. Thank you.
I'm really excited to see what that looks like.
Yeah, thanks, mate.
Look, mate, we're probably coming up for time here, but look, just maybe a few more questions I wanted to touch on. You've obviously been through a lot of, as we've discussed here today, stuff for your dad's obviously impacted you. You're probably still delving into the degree to which that has impacted you and other relationships, mate. But you've built this really successful business in Bondi in such a short space of time. Are you proud of yourself?
I am. It's something that has taken a long time. The old imposter syndrome, I guess, and you call it, like how'd this happen?
Yeah.
And that happens. I think we all go through that at stages, but especially when, Hamo came around on the weekend and we just sat there and we ran through everything and had a bit of a hug and like we're proud of each other. We're proud of the success that we've had and me personally, I'm definitely proud of what I've overcome. I've used it as fuel. I think you can go two different ways. You can take that victim mentality, which a lot of people do, and I find that as a bit of a cop-out. Or you can use it as motivation. And every day I wake up and I'm happy. I jump out of bed. I've got a successful business. I'm doing it with my best mates. I don't take anything for granted. I've had some people that have invested a lot in me, time, money, patience. I'm lucky, but at the same time, I know that I'm responsible for a lot of that. So, just got to embrace it, and I am. I'm proud.
Beautiful, mate. Yeah. Beautiful. And look, final question from me. You're sitting here years later. If I just want to take you back to that little boy in Tassie that I suppose lived in fear, as you put it. What would you tell that little boy today? What words of advice would you give him?
Jeez, that's a brilliant question. You don't need that validation. You don't need to prove to anyone but yourself, what you're capable of. I was always in fear of obviously my father, but that fear carried over into everything. I was, fearful of the way I looked, fearful of, how I was perceived. And my advice would be just to, put your head down, work hard. Everyone's going through their own battles. Stick at it and run your own race.
Beautiful, mate. We'll leave it there for today.
Easy, mate.
I really appreciate you coming on, Rawson.
Thank you very much, mate.
Cheers,
Thank
bud.
you.
Thanks, buddy. Cheers.
How's that?
Good.
Good?
Yeah, good, mate.
Good, mate.